Hi, this is Lauren Maffeo for Planet Vehicle, and today we are here at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., where Consumer Reports has just unveiled its best and worst cars for 2011. We had the chance to catch up with Dave Champion earlier today, who spoke to us about why, despite massive recalls in recent years, Toyota remains on top.
Well, Toyota really makes very reliable cars overall. If you look at the manufacturers over the history of 10 years that we're looking at the reliability, they are probably the most reliable manufacturer out there. They do make very good cars. Yes, they've been hit this year with a load of recalls, but not for things that have actually gone wrong. These are recalls that they did to prevent unintended acceleration and entrapment of the pedal with the floor mat. So if you take that out of the equation, they still make cars that are very dependable over the long term.
He also talked about some of the biggest surprises in this year's survey, the biggest being that there is much more variety among the top picks.
I think when you look at top picks, these are the top 10 vehicles in their category. In many years past, maybe most of them would have been Japanese, or most of them would have come from Honda and Toyota brands. This year, you look at them, they come from 8 different manufacturers. So you've got Hyundai, Kia, Ford, Chevrolet, Honda, there's a couple of Toyotas, Nissan, Infiniti. They're all in different brands across the marketplace. So I think today there's much more competition in the marketplace. It's much better for a consumer to go out and buy a really good car. But you really have to do your homework and look at each brand, each model, to find out which is the best one for you.
Dave also gave us his view on smartphones and cars and whether updating your Facebook status through your vehicle is a smart idea.
Well, it depends how they integrate it. When you look at the use of a smartphone in the car, is it more dangerous to have somebody actually looking at their smartphone doing this as they're driving, or integrate it into the car and make the car possibly more confusing to use and make them more likely to use that system backwards and forwards? That's going to be a very difficult question to answer, and time will tell of which way it goes. I do think that hands-free is a lot better than somebody actually dialing the phone. Some of the voice controls that are on cars that you can actually press a button and dial by voice or dial from a contact, those systems work very well when you're driving to reduce that amount of distraction when you're driving. When you look at text messaging, the Ford MyTouch, that system allows a text message to come in on certain phones, and it will read that text message to you and give you a couple of commands that you can't actually reply to the text, but you can actually call that cell phone to reply, which is probably a good way of doing it. When you look at the wider picture, having emails and Facebook updates put into your car, I'm not sure where that, the amount of data in a normal email is usually quite dense. They're not usually answering 1 or 2 questions. You might have, a statement and somebody's asking you a couple of questions. If that's read out to you while you're driving, to remember all the questions and then go back and reply to them and have it read back to you, I think that's very distracting to do. Having Facebook updates, I'm not sure that's sort of particularly good when you find out your girlfriend's just broken up with you because she's now single on your Facebook update.
After a few rocky recent years, Ford has come out on top again. We spoke to Rick Paul about what the brand has done to reinvent itself.
Well, in recent years, we've really seen them come up in terms of reliability, which we get from our subscriber surveys. In the last 3 or 4 years, Ford has been right up there with some of the top manufacturers. The Fusion in particular is the most reliable car in its class. And so, we've seen Ford come up in reliability, but now we're also seeing them do well in our testing as far as their new model is concerned. So in our automaker report cards this year, Ford as a automaker had the largest improvement of any of the 13 automakers we looked at. They improved in both our test score, our average test score, and in reliability. And there was only a couple others that improved in both, and neither one did as well as Ford.
GM is also on the upswing, but Rick says that more work needs to be done before it matches the success of Ford.
Well, I think GM's on the right track. Some of the newer models that we've tested of GM have impressed. They've done well on our testing. Reliability is kind of hit or miss still, but they do have older models still out there, which I think drags their overall score down. So as they replace those, and if they stay on the right track that they're on now, and each time they do a redesign it gets better, then they're certainly, I think, going to follow in the heels of Ford. They do have to get more consistent reliability, though.
There was a lot of information at today's luncheon, but the biggest takeaway for buyers should be the variety among Consumer Reports' top picks. So if you're out there looking for a new car, you're in luck. For more information, visit consumerreports.org. I'm Lauren Maffeo for Planet Vehicle.